Okay, in this tutorial we're going to take a quick look at how you can edit some simple sounds. So one of the sites that you can get sound is freesound.org. You do have to make an account, but you can search a bunch of different sounds on here. Some of them are really good, some of them are very bad. So you just need to preview sounds. So for this one, looking for some footsteps. We'll use that in a second, but footsteps, and you have a bunch of them come up. So they have a little preview in there. You can preview the one that you want and then download it. So Audacity is what we're going to be using. It's free, so you can download that. So one of the sounds I'm going to do is for this frame. So I've got these spaceships in there, so I want to try to create that little sound effect. So I'm going to get my sound. All I'm going to do is drag it in there. So this sound that I have actually has a bunch of different sound effects in it. It's got some like laser sound effects and some engine sound effects, and they're all kind of broken up, and you can see where it flatlines its silence. So I'm just going to listen to them just really quick. So you can hear they're all kind of broken up. This is the sound that I want. So what I want to cover in this one is how to pull the sound out of there to make it individual, and also how to do a fade out. So the problem with this one, if you hit Control or Command in 1, you can zoom in, or if you're working with a mouse, you can hold Control and use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out to get a better look. So with this one, if I zoom in, I'm going to hit F1, the selection tool. So while I'm in here, I can select bits that I want. But this bit has this hard line, meaning like the sound just kind of cuts off, versus this bit is a fade out. So it's a nicer effect when it fades out. You get a volume decrease over time. So for this one, the first thing I want to do is select the portion of it. I'm just going to do Control C or Command C if you're running on a Mac. And then I'm going to click outside, Control V to paste it. And then if I drag and go back, or I can use the selection bar here, I go back to the beginning and I can see there's my new sound, right? So I just basically pulled this out, copied it into a new track. So with my old track that has the original sound, I'm just going to mute it and it turns gray, so that way I can just listen to this one. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click this button to return back to the start of the track, and then I click play. So you see the sound just kind of cuts off there. So quick thing I'm going to do is I kind of want it to fade out maybe right around in this area and not necessarily go to the end. So I'm going to select the duration of the fade out. If I want it to be kind of quick, it'll kind of suddenly drop off, or I can select a longer amount of time and it'll slowly fade out. So I'm going to look at right about there. And then with that selected, I'm going to go to Effect, Fade Out, and then it's done. So if I zoom in, you can see it has that nice little drop off now. And then kind of a little convenient part, if you already have a selection, if you hover over it, you'll see this little finger, and it basically lets you push the selection and pull it, so you don't have to do another one. So I'm actually going to pull it this way and just going to hit delete, and that will get rid of the other part that I don't want. So now if I go back and play it has a nice little fade out. So with that, I'm going to keep the other track muted. I've got this track on, and then I'm going to go File, Export. I'm going to do it as a wave. And then from there, I could find where I want it, and I would export that sound and name it and put it in your project directory for your After Effects file. A couple of other neat things that we can do in Audacity. If I go and find that footstep sound I downloaded. I'm going to drag it in there, and let's listen to it really quickly. So two things that I want to do with this. I want to slow down the footsteps, and I want to make them sound like they're in a cave. So I want some echo to them. So I'm going to select, and I want to show you a quick difference of some functions. So I'm just going to copy this into two other tracks. To move a little selection around, so this is a little chunk of sound, you can go up to this time shift or F5, and I can just grab it and move it. So I want to listen to these so we can compare really quickly. So I'm going to go back to the selection. I'm going to double click on this chunk. Actually, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to go to Effect, and you can see two options here. One is Change Speed, and one is Change Tempo. So when you're thinking about this in terms of music, whenever you change the tempo of music, the pitch or the high or low sound comparison, it stays the same, it just goes quicker. When you change the speed of a sound, it will still affect pitch. So I'm going to change the speed of this first, and I'm going to make it really slow. And if I hit preview, I can hear it. So you see it's going really slow, but it's actually making the footstep a lower pitch. And you can see that it affects it there, stretches it out. So if you want to keep the same pitch, so our original one was more of this higher pitch, I'm going to affect it through tempo now. So tempo, and I'm going to make it a slower tempo. So you see it's going slower, but the pitch from the original is the same. So let's just really quickly compare these, and we can listen. So this is our original one, our one affected through speed, and then our one affected through tempo. See how low that pitch drops. And this is more of our original pitch of the footstep. It's just slower now. So that's one way you can affect things if you need to change the how quickly a sound is going by. You want to be aware of if the sound slows down too much, you can get some artifacting in there, and the sound might be a little bit funky in terms of its timbre. So I'm going to use the one affected through tempo, and then the last thing I'm going to do is go to Effect and do Reverb. Reverb is basically just echo, but there's a lot of stuff. I would ignore all of these really except for room size and reverb. So the room size sounds like what it is. If you have a huge room, think 100 up to like a cathedral, and the reverberance is the amount of echo. So I'm going to max both of them out, and you can see what it sounds like. Pre-delay, you can kind of keep that kind of low. I would say around like something like maybe 20 is a default. You can mess around, totally experiment, see what things sound like. We're going to hit preview. And you can see how crazy echo that sounds. So if you gear down the amount of echo, or maybe make the room smaller, so I want a large room with a medium amount of echo. And there it'll change the sound. And then the last thing, if maybe I need to make this louder, I can go to Effect and choose Amplify. By default, it's going to give you a value that will like max out as loud as it can be. So you might not want that, so you maybe gear it down a little bit. And then keep an eye on this waveform. As I press OK, it will increase in size, meaning it is louder now. So those are just some basic tools. Something you want to make sure is you push it back to the beginning. Make sure if you have any other tracks, they're muted. And then do the same thing, file export, and I would do a wave for right now. So that's just some simple stuff on sound.